this year, Wall Street was pretty negative on the restaurant space. Aside from a handful of success stories like Cramer favored McDonald's, most of the industry's been under pressure, weighed down by the rise of the stay-at-home economy. But lately, the group seems to have come back into vogue, and it's not just because of the tax bill, although that certainly helped, as restaurants are some of the highest taxpayers around. Even last month, the troubled Buffalo Wild Wings caught a takeover bid from a private equity firm. We need to understand how this industry is changing, whether the newfound positivity will be temporary or long-lasting, and I've got just the guide to explaining to us one of my heroes, Ron Shaich, the co-founder and retiring CEO of Panera Bread, who took his own company private with the help of JAB Holdings earlier this year, giving investors, get this, a 91% gain between when he returned as CEO in 2012 and the buyout. Mr. Shaich, welcome back to Mad Money.
Good to see you,
Ron. Great to see you. You are terrific. You look fabulous.
Thank you.
All right, so what's
whoa, I got to get some things straight
Sure,
here.
go right ahead.
92% return. I had
from the
over
beginning.
20 years, 25% annual appreciation. We grew at 9,400%.
All right. Now, duly noted. Duly noted. Because that's the right focus, 9,400. Now, let me ask you a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Is it not a relief to not have to, every quarter, plan for a conference call where you then are peppered with questions by people who have never even made one of your bread bowls and don't even know how to sign up someone in your 25 million loyalty program, and then have to respond to the nitpicking?
Yeah. Well, let's be clear. I still have 3 more weeks left as CEO, so I'm not out of here until December 31st. But straight up, it's far better to do the kinds of transformative events that drove Panera's huge success. Far better to do it in the context of being a private company. The reality is Panera was able to drive the best performance in the restaurant industry over the last 20 years, twice Starbucks, 4 times Chipotle. We were able to do that because we transformed that company, our company, 6 different times. You go all the way back, we were a croissant shop, became a bakery cafe. We then went from there and made the bet on fast casual. We were the poster child. I then sold Au Bon Pain and bet the entire thing on Panera. We then had the opportunity to be contrarian when everybody in the zeros were loading up on debt. We held back when the recession hit. We invested into the guest experience, saw our comps triple. We saw our stock triple. And then, as you said, I came back as CEO in 2010. We bet on digital, loyalty, delivery, and it worked.
But, you know, I remember the gut-wrenching moments when your son was in the mosh pit, when you were doing 2.0 in North Carolina, when you were sitting there with one of your colleagues and you didn't like, and these were things that were best if you had been private, because you admitted, and you were the only CEO ever admitted this, and it hurt your stock, but it was the truth.
Yeah, I mean, here's the reality, Jim. We have increasingly moved into a world of pervasive short-termism. I was a public company CEO for 26 years. I did more quarterly earnings reports than Cal Ripken essentially was in all-star games, all right? I mean, I did over 100 quarterly earnings reports. Here's the reality of it. Increasingly, the markets have changed. 26 years ago, over half our stock traded held for over a year. Today, over half our stock is trading within 1 month. What's driving today's shareholdings are traders on the market. We had large shareholders like Capri, Goldman Sachs, Barron Funds, but the reality is they don't drive the price. What drives the price are the traders who are betting on next week's comp, and that affects the entire organization.
How do we change it?
Well, it's really simple.
Can you help change it?
I'm going to help change it.
What are you going to do?
We're going to start to talk about what's gone on. Do you think this is good for economic growth?
No, it's ridiculous. You and I both know that.
How do you have innovation when CEOs are running around afraid, when they're concerned? You talked about Sally Smith and Buffalo Wild Wings. She was one of your heroes. She was great.
She worked so hard. She had a tough, people started doing takeout.
Yeah.
She is a person who built a great institution. Boom, she's out.
Well, 10-bagger over 15 years.
So wrong.
Yeah, right. And now she gets an activist that attacks her. She called me when that happened. We talked, and we talked about drawing a line in the sand. She drew a line in the sand. You know what happened? They took a proxy fight against her. Her management supported her. Her franchisees supported her. She lost the proxy fight. The stock popped 10% for a couple of weeks, and then it fell 40%. And they were forced to sell the company for no more than it was trading at the beginning.
Wait, the activist who pushed so hard, he didn't even get it back to...
Exactly. Here's my point. It's not just happening in that company. Last week, it was Jack in the Box. It was Bloomin' Brands. Every week, it's somebody else. It isn't hard to walk in and look at you and say, I got 2% of your stock, I got 6% in derivatives, I'm now your owner, I want you to cut your costs in half, I want you to lever up your balance sheet, we'll get the stock price up and we'll let somebody else worry about the carcass.
Do you think someone's going to do that to Chipotle? I mean, Chipotle's obviously troubled.
Well, look who's in there. Ackman's in there right now.
Yeah. I didn't know what his role is.
I mean, they've got 10%. He's the largest shareholder. Right? And you know, I mean, the reality is, if we really want to build value in companies, we've got to take a long-term view. Right. The greatest competitive advantage of the FANG stocks, Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, is they have the ability to be long-term.
Yes, and they have owners.
Right. Well, they have a capital structure that's long-term. You may know, I was on the board of directors of Whole Foods.
Right.
Amazon is now bought.
What they did to them, huh?
Well, here's the thing. What do you think?
John Mackey built that company.
An extraordinary job. So what do you think? No, he's still there.
No, but I'm saying, you know, I mean,
Yes.
he got that board hectored him, and they've never run a supermarket.
Well, exactly. But we had new competitive pressures. You have all kinds of pressure with Walmart and Target.
I know.
You had a number of things occurring. The reality is there was an effective plan to transition it. Do you know what Amazon is doing? From at least where I sit, they're doing the same plan that Whole Foods would have done. The difference is they have a capital structure that allows them to think long term. My point is, the greatest competitive advantage Panera had, the reason we produced these results we did, is because we could think long term. And the reason I took our company private is I'm increasingly worried about our ability to do that in a
Politics, the
public
best way to do this. You just come on shows to be a CNBC. I would love you to be one of our guests, a permanent guest.
Right.
Is that the best way?
No, I think the right way is really to talk about it, right?
Okay.
So I'm interested in really giving voice to this. I think that increasingly, if we're going to have change, we need to really express this. We need to recognize how these markets have changed. I think that you're in a situation where you have passive investors that are in these stocks. You've got a situation where you've got Glass Lewis and ISS.
No, we got to do this.
Rating it. And they're rule-based. We need to be able to make judgments.
In June, I'm running a conference just about this issue from the insider side.
Yeah.
Time to let the companies do what they should. The great CEOs like you should be allowed to do what they do. That's Ron Shaich, co-founder, chairman, and outgoing CEO of Panera Bread. Everything he said is so true. I hope you listen. We're going to be staying on this. This is a great theme. Mad Money's back after the break.